I'd like to introduce Tim Lapp. He's our artist here today. We're in his exhibition at the moment. His primary influence is by painters. He takes images from cameras and digitalizes them and features the light and mood of the shot into the digitalized zone. And this is where, I'm not going to steal any of his thunder, but this is where he'll go through and discuss some of the content that he has for you. And you'll see how he works in that digitalized zone to produce the images, the quality of the shot that he has. So I won't steal any more of your thunder. I'll pass across to Tim. Thanks, Tim.
Hi, how you going? I think I'll just briefly outline my main motivation. My influence is primarily that of William Turner, the English painter. Just love his journey and exploration of colour is mine as well. And I've always loved that movement and then followed on by the Impressionist movement. Now, I can't paint like that, I can't paint at all, but what I do understand is my craft. And I come from a film industry background, and I was a cinematographer and still am. And what I do understand in relation to that is motion blur and what that is. So I've combined that craft and understanding what I do to use the camera like a paintbrush. Create the look that you see on the wall predominantly in camera. Originate on negative. Now, traditionally in the film industry, we would shoot our motion picture film, and that's just changing over now, as we'd all be aware. There are still some needs, requirements to shoot on negative, but it's becoming rarer and rarer. Costs and turnaround times is the main reason. But we were always taught to shoot on negative, and we would then scan that negative, and then from that point on work in the digital domain. And I understand that. I virtually learned that way in the 80s. That's how we've always worked in the film industry. So working in the digital environment is not that new to me, but of course I've been part of the growth and the evolution of that technology. I'm very comfortable and very familiar with it. So when I went on my personal journey of my fine art, I just transferred that, what I always did in my journey as a cinematographer, and just put it over into my fine art work. Original negative, scan, and then work in the digital domain. So my access to that technology in terms of is probably very simple compared to the shared power that's offered at my fingertips, but that's my choice as a fine art artist. Just in closing, what I would like to say, getting back to as a cameraman, and this is not that long ago, it's just how quickly it's all changed. Often when you get a script and read it and you see it have a lot of visual effects elements in it, you would almost audibly groan because it was such a nightmare. The VFX guys would turn up on set, there'd be all these rules and regulations of what we couldn't do. You can't move the camera, you've got to take all these measurements and the distance, the lens, so wherever we go, it was just like a rule, it's like a ball and chain. And it really got in the way of filmmaking and telling a story. That's all gone, and it's truly liberating what we can do now, and we embrace it like open-heartedly. It's just wonderful. We can just do anything. We want to move the camera, sure, there's no problem. We can track it easy to easy. Prior to that, you used to have motion control, but it's time-consuming. Kind of never really worked, but that's all gone. We can just do what we want underneath it, and the software that tracks what we do on set is just amazing, and it really is liberating and helps tell the story, all of which you'd all be very familiar. But I think HP is not so much forgotten, but certainly in my end of the industry, we've forgotten that they were always kind of leading the way in all that research and in that development. And they all go right back prior to all that, of course, the more consumer familiarity with the more sexy brands, if you like. But at the back end of all of that is usually HP involved somewhere along the way. And what's happening now in terms of the high-end motion picture industry, they're right there, and you can see it in all the visual effects. I've got a few of my friends just recently worked on Mad Max 4, and the kind of technology that's brought to bear on that and is now being used on the new Star Trek film is bring on these scanners that scan the entire set. You can bring that in the computer, go to 3D model. It's just amazing what can be done. We're now only literally limited in the old cliche, but cliches are what they are because they often speak the truth. It's our imagination that's the only limiting factor. So just like to go to that.
Thanks, Tim. And that's probably a really good place to sort of start moving across to our workstation sort of products. Great point. HP's really been there with the digital media entertainment space. Our Dreamcolor panel has just won a Oscar in the technical field for that achievement in our Dreamcolor panels. Going back to our 2480 ZX model, that's where that's sort of been driven from. Growing that Dreamcolor presentation straight from our desktops into our mobile workstations, and that's across the sphere now for a lot of different things. This is our Pavilion 27C. It's our consumer model 27-inch curved. We have a commercial model as well in this space, very similar in the same aspects. What we're going to be doing soon is we'll be moving into a 34C as well, a Z34C, which is a workstation class system. 21 by 9 display aspect ratio. So where your standard models are your 16 by 10 or 16 by 9, this is 21 by 9. So really getting that really wide aspect ratio. As I said, I was just saying to Ray, I looked at it in a picture form and went, I'm not too sold on it. I saw it in real life and went, I like it. I sat down in front of it and I was blown away. It was just an engrossing, really mesmerizing type of screen, and they just had the Windows desktop on it. So nothing too exciting, but still, you sit down and you become engrossed in this curved screen. In the 34C, you're looking at a higher radius, so a lot of the televisions these days are fairly low in their radius and their curve. This is up to about 3,000 millimeters. Okay, so really high curvature. You get engrossed into the screen. Now, this is going to be great for not just your digital media entertainment people that are looking to move into that space, but receptions, CEOs. I have two 27 inches and a 24. I have very little desk space in my little cubicle. I'll be getting rid of 2 of my 27s and putting one of these in. It is that sort of atmosphere that I'm able to create a much easier work environment for myself, because I'm moving into that space where I've just got one monitor. I'm going to get a lot more desk space back. So the curved screens are really coming into their factor. A lot of people sort of say they're just marketing. I've sat down in front of the 34, the higher curvature, you do get engrossed with it. As I said, I was just looking at a Windows desktop. So not too much to look at, but I was still excited by it. Mobile workstations. We have our new 14-inch G2. This is our mobile workstation built from the Intel Ultra Low Voltage 5 series generation. We have our 15-inch, both very similar in their design, just a larger 14 to a 15-inch form factor. Okay, so because
the 15 inches of G.
That's a 15U. Zbook 15U. Now, like the previous generation, you're still able to get full access into the system. Like our 15-inch G2s and 17-inch G2s, you're still able to get full control. Now the benefit here is I can upgrade my memory to replace my battery at any stage. I'm not limited by this small form factor in what I can and can't do to it. It's extremely scalable. With our new G2 models, you can now start putting our Z Turbo drive in it, which is a 256 gig solid state. Okay, that's the old 120 gig, but we're moving up to 256, a little bit longer, but it sits straight on the motherboard. Now we gave this to Adobe in our 17-inch G2 model, and they didn't want to give it back. John Barry there, who saw at our last presentation, he was getting amazing throughput just on this solution of mine. The benefit there is though, you've got a 256 gig solid state that leaves your space for a second hard drive. So I can put a 256 gig solid state straight on the motherboard, put my OS and software on it, and then put a 1 terabyte drive in for my user files, my storage, my music, those stuff that takes up a lot of space that you don't want slowing down your OS or your software. So it gives you that flexibility. Now to be able to put 1.2 terabytes of storage in a small form factor, that's pretty expandable. And it also has an AMD 5 Pro graphics card in it. So you're still able to have the full power available to you if you need to use those software that's available. So be it your Adobe's, those type of products. So as I said, very simple and easily, you're able to do it. Our 14-inch G2 has a touchscreen environment, which allows us to have full control over what we're doing. And that allows you to have that interaction with Windows 8. This is still running Windows 7. You're still able to have that full interaction straight from the workout. Okay? very quickly, very easily, you're interacting with the system. Moving on to our displays. I've only just received this yesterday. Basically, I opened it up yesterday. This is our 24S. This is our 4K 24-inch screen. Now, there's a lot of Ks being thrown out there these days. People are going up to 8 and 16K and a lot of the things. We're talking about the resolution. Okay, this is one of the presentations that Adobe gave to us at our last event. And this is where we were doing the shooting of Gone Girl, all being used on HP products. They shot in 6K. Now 6K is 6,144 dots by 3160. They shot in that scale and then brought it back down to a 5K picture, which is 5120 by 2700. So you can see here there's a lot of extra space there that they're able to get rid of. Now whenever you have a camera, doesn't matter what camera you have, doesn't matter what tripod you have, you'll still have a bit of shake around the edges. If you're able to shoot in 6K and bring it back to 5K, you're getting rid of a lot of excess space, a lot of extra noise and movement. So this is where the benefits of that comes in. Also running in in that sort of space, you are able to get a tighter shot. So instead of being like this in front of the camera, you can be quite a distance back and still get rid of excess noise and bring the camera in. If you have seen Gone Girl, it is an extremely close personal film with a lot of the actors, but guaranteed the camera wasn't in their face the whole time. They could be natural, they could have the environment to be able to perform what they want to perform without a camera sitting right in their face. And I think it really comes across in the movie. So this is our 24-inch 4K. We then move across, unfortunately I don't have any content on it at the moment, but this is our 27-inch 4K display, which is a 27S, 24S. We then move into our 27Q. This is a 5K panel, native 5K. At the moment it's only running 2K because I couldn't get a second DisplayPort connection, but it's running 4K content quite quickly and easily. Running straight off a Zbook G2, 14 G2. So as you can see, extremely high content, extremely high quality, very quickly easy to display in a 27-inch form factor. Now, to say to go into 6K and all of the rest of the ones that are coming, they will be coming, just not yet. I don't think the technology is quite there. Again, to go into 5K, I need to have multiple displays to display 4K. So those technologies will start to come when that gets updated. So that's our 4 and 5K panels that are currently released. Now we move into a lot of fun stuff. This is our ZVR monitor. Now this was announced in CES. Won a couple of awards for CES, and I have to say for everyone on the show, be it a novice user, be it IT professionals, they all turn around and say, I want one. Or they start trying to touch things. So this is our virtual reality display. It enables us to, this is just a demonstration software. These are the lightweight passive glasses with sensors connected to it. Now, as you can see, when I move my head, you should see the 3D space sort of move. Actually, Brad, do you want to come up and be my demonstrator? I'm also able to come in and interact with models as well. And quite like a lot of other people, Ray's already gone in to try and touch and manipulate these things. So a butterfly, I'm able to bring it out and move around. Yeah, and you're able to see and interact with this. Now, yes, this is fairly, let me just try to get my finger around here. Let me jump across here. So I'm able to interact with this environment. So as Ray moves his head, great. As Ray moves his head, it actually comes into, so I'm able to pick this up and move it around. Now I can put this in here. Get into all the technical questions.
No. Mark, can you please give us an overview of what's changed on the 5th Gen Broadwell mobile workstations versus previous, the Haswell? What have you changed? What are the new GPUs, are the new screens and so on?
Yeah, we moved up into the next series of the AMD 5 Pro graphics. We've also moved into the 5th Gen Haswell solutions. So they're the two major drivers. We've kept the form factor as is, and you'll probably see that as more form factors come through. It's a very lightweight solution.
You said 15 Haswell, 15.
Sorry,
5th Gen Broadwell, 4th Gen Haswell.
4th Gen Broadwell in the ultra low voltage, as
So-
well as in our 15-inch G2s and 17-inch.
Ultra low voltage Broadwell was something new in the mobile workstation market overall. I mean, how are you finding that? How are your customers finding? Isn't that maybe a bit? Some users might be a bit apprehensive to buy a mobile workstation with either an Ultrabook CPU in it and so on.
Great point. It's the point where we're now designing our products for our customers. These are designed for people that need, yes, we still need power on the go. We might have a secondary box in the office that does the full grunt work, but this allows me to take it out. It comes down to are you a content consumer, creator, or manipulator? Now, I'm not a massive creator. I'm a manipulator. Some of my Excel spreadsheets are very large in size, 2 to 400 to 500 meg. So when I want to start using content, when I start manipulating that, I don't want to be waiting a minute to 2 minutes on a tablet. It's not designed, it's not my place. But this here is where I've moved from the Zbook 15 down to one of these. It's thinner, lighter, and I'm able to do it on the go. But if I'm going to go and create the content and I'm going to start manipulating the larger forms of data, I'm still able to move to that Zbook 15 G2 or 17-inch G2 if I require that space. So this is where I'm able to get down to a thin and light form factor without having to compromise with FirePro graphics, without having to compromise anything else, but I still have that form factor that I require. And this is driven from our customers. Our customers, we used to have a large form factor, 14-inch. They said 14 needs to be thin and light, 15 and 17 need to be full power. And that's what we've listened to. So the 15 and 17-inch G2 Zbooks, you're going to be able to still get full-powered processors and full-powered graphics cards. In the 17-inch, you can move to an extreme processor, as well as the 8 gig NVIDIA graphics card.
So basically, you're saying now you're offering end users more choice in the professional space, and they can just see which one most suits their workflow.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned you're using your FirePro graphics on the ultra low voltage mobile workstation. So are you offering 400 GPUs on this generation? Maxwell-based Quadros and so on.
In the current range, we're only offering the FirePros in the 14 and the 15-inch space. In the 15-inch G2 and the 17-inch G2, you're able to get a wider range of solutions, be it AMD or NVIDIA.
Yeah, you showed the modularity of the chassis, and that was something you've carried over and something users expect. Other than that, are there any major changes of the notebooks this year, for example? Have you upgraded the screens for 3K screens, or any major bullet points?
In these form factors, the screens, we moved into a full HD touch in the 14-inch, which is new for us. We used to have a HD Plus touchscreen.
Is that compared to the Haswell generation G2 from last year, or are you talking about the previous?
Just this, the previous G1 14-inch Zbook. It was a HD Plus touch. This is now full HD Plus, which is that one over there. The 15-inch is still a full HD screen.
And in the beginning of your remarks, you mentioned HP is bringing out the curved workstation screen. I think you're the first to put in the workstation segment, because I don't think Dell has one yet. Have you done any research in terms of professional users accept the curved screen and that sort of thing?
It is, again,
adoption and...
I don't know what the US has done with their investigations of it. My own experience with it, I looked at the picture, I went, hit and miss. I sat down in front of it, I was blown away.
Because
this is replaced by 227, so I'm going away from being cluttered up with multiple monitors across my screen to having one full widescreen solution just for me.
From our point of view, in terms of reviewing and testing consumer hardware, when a gamer or infused power user or whatever, they see the curved screen, obviously, as they mentioned, they echo your comments, saying it's a nicer experience. But for a professional user, they might, maybe they might have some concerns. We were showing mechanical demos early on augmented reality. Maybe if they're doing a mechanical part, the curve might affect their parallax or something like that. So it's interesting to see, how the research has gone around into preparing that.
Don't know that answer. Sorry.
And we have one question for our guest speaker, Tim, here. And you mentioned in your remarks you changed from the analog world into the digital, and now there's some tools of your tray that you can't go without. Can you give us a bit of a description what software and hardware you can't go without these days in terms of your content creation?
Okay, I think for me, where the digital domain works for me in terms of my fine art, if you think of it like a modern 21st century darkroom, it does what we would traditionally do in, we use the term analog darkroom, where it's just chemicals and you're doing blow-ups optically. Let's use the term Photoshop. In a way, as a fine art photographer, we were always photoshopping. It was just a very slow, laborious thing. We would dodge and we even burn in the skies. We were always manipulating the image. And the digital domain allows us to do that much more efficiently, much faster, with much greater degree of results. So we can put detail in the skies, we can put windows around the horizon line, put in the details that we would always be doing in the darkroom. But the digital domain allows us to do more effectively and with a greater degree of finesse. And what I still choose for my fine artwork to originate on negative is that it's very simple. It echoes back to my profession as a cinematographer, where we would originate on the negative. The reason why we would traditionally do that up until very recently, with the onset of the new technologies like the Red and the Alexas and the Sonys with their digital capture, is that you got the full colour gambit of the negative. And the advantage of that is that you transfer that into the digital domain, you maintain that colour gambit, and the digital domain can grab onto that and enhance it in a way that in true digital capture is still not problematic, but it's more of a more natural, user-friendly. You end up with much more natural, enhanced colours. You can desaturate them and end up with a real more richness rather than trying to create the whole thing digitally. On the flip side of that now, with the technology in the digital domain, the power is so immense. As an artist, I get to choose how much of that I choose to access to form my expression, and I pick and choose what I need to get my images up on the screen. The great thing about the digital domain, when I do a blow-up, it's done digitally, not optically. So there's no degrading of the image because the blow-up has been done digitally. Whereas traditionally you would have to do that optically, and by the mere fact of an optical blow-up, you're actually magnifying the grain structure in the negative and on the print, and that would find its way onto the print. So you would always have to shoot much bigger negative. So the great, for me, it's a lovely marriage between I can still shoot on negative and get that whole contrast range, but then I can then capture that, transfer all of that latitude onto the digital domain, and I've got a huge canvas to work with.
For your personal use, do you use one of these mobile workstations or use a desktop workstation? What types of hardware?
I use a desktop workstation, only because I don't require a laptop for what I do.
Yeah.
With cinematography, with now that we all are capturing in high-end digital cameras, we have what was traditionally referred to as a clapper load is now referred to as a data wrangle. And these guys turn up with drives, and we're required by the insurers to back up footage on 3 separate drives, and all those drives have to go up to three separate locations. So if there's a problem with the firmware, that we've got something. But that's just a requirement that the insurances give us to put on. So those data wranglers, we get what we call digital magazines. They go on the back of the cameras. We shoot our scenes, and then they're taken into the van. They download that material. They do their various copies. They reformat that magazine, and then gets recycled back onto set, cleared to carry on. So we usually work between 4 and 5 digital magazines, or data cards too. I mean, I don't think we've got what we call SNS cards, which are Sony technology. I work with German Ariflex cameras called the Alexas, predominantly. I mean, Red's another tool we work with now. They're all very high-end motion picture digital capture cameras. And it just depends on the volume of material that some directors like large capacity digital mag because they don't want to keep stopping all the time. And they're in like 500 gigabytes. And the big breakthrough for us is the solid state magazines. They're a lot more stable. We tend not to get so much data issues. That was always the big bugbear with where the technology was being perfected, is we were getting a lot of data contamination and breakups.
When you mean data contamination, you mean the hardware was not mature, or the software workflow,
basically,
adapting?
Traditional mags, that was a spinning disc.
Okay,
and often they just didn't. And with a motion picture camera, it's bolted on the side of the camera. It's on a head or a remote head.
Some of those use SSDs now and then.
And then, of course, some of the mags those discs we couldn't build because a lot of the time they were designed to just sit on the desk. You put them on a film set, they're subjected to all various forces. Solid states fixed all that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Tim.